Hey, this is Tiqqle, and in this video we're going over the June 9th PvP changes and what it means for the PvP meta. This was just announced after one of the AWC Cups on, I think it was like Friday night, and so we're going to walk through the changes, then we're going to talk about what it means for those classes that have to stack verse, what it may mean for the meta, and then some other thoughts. And then I just want to give a quick shout out. I am streaming every day 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/tiqqlethis, and we have a PvP event coming up June 13th and a transmog competition coming up June 20th, so we'll see you on there. But let's go ahead and go through this, and then we'll go into what kind of the thoughts about this. Just in case you didn't hear, this is a very big change, especially for classes like Shaman, who are stacking a lot of versatility. Now let's go, we'll do some of the math as well on the over the video, and we'll kind of walk through it, but these are the changes. Number one, Corruption Gladiator Spite once again can stack more quickly when multiple spite trinkets are used against a target. This means if you are, let's say you're stunned, or let's say you're just standing in place in an arena and you're in 3v3. The other three team members throw all their spites at you. It will all go onto you, and you'll get plus 20 corruption immediately for each one that hits you, and then 3 ticking on top of that, additional every second that you're in those pools. Now, what does that do? Why is that a big deal? Well, that was used by a lot of rogue Mage X, RMX players in terms of getting huge burst windows because they would stack that on you. You would have, like, let's say everyone's running around 40 corruption. You run three of those onto someone, and that will instantly jack up their corruption to 100. And then every second they're in there, it's getting 3 more. And after you go above a certain corruption, every time you're kind of like taking damage or from an eye or anything, your damage that you take is significantly increased. Meaning that if you stay in that corruption pool for even a second, you can get up to plus 100% damage taken, and then you get a lot of decreased healing taken, which means that you are going to get bursted to Kingdom Come. And the reason that this was so broken in the beginning was because it didn't put you in combat, and people could do polymorph goes, or like sap goes. So like Rogue starts on you, he saps you, they all throw 3 of these spites on you, and then you just start soaking up your corruption, and then they poly you in it, or they do whatever it is to just make you immobile. They'll stun you, they'll silence you, they'll stun you again, just to keep that corruption going up. So then when you take 100% more damage, it can basically one-shot you. This was it's nerfed a little bit because now it still puts you in combat, so they can't sap go you, and they can't do well, yeah, that's pretty much it. They can't do the sap opener go. They can still do other things, but it's the stuns now that they'll use to kind of lock you in place. So with that being said, that was a change, and that's okay. I mean, RMX is was using that to its main advantage for main goes, and when like, you might say to yourself, it doesn't seem that good, I tried it. When you get spike goed and you see when they do it right, that shit hurts. So that's it. The other item here is Void Portal, summoned by Corrupted Gladiator's Breach, is now slightly larger and easier to interact with. Okay, maybe they want people to use it. I'm still not really using that in Arena. This is the big thing, though. Corruption effect. Versatiles, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Make fun of me in the comments. Versatile's effectiveness has been reduced by 33% when engaged in combat with PvP players. Listen, this is we have to just focus here, okay? It's not versatility overall. Chat corrected me on one of my streams. It is just corruption effects. This means those corruptions that you can buy from the vendor now, there's a 12%, a 9%, a 6%. When they're nerfing this by 33%, 12 now is as effective as an 8. Okay, so 33% off of that, and then a 9% is now effective as a 6, and a 3% is now effective. Wait, no, 6% is now effective as a 4. So it's ratcheting those down. So you're getting less verse benefit in PvP. This is probably because you guys have probably seen some of the clips or some of the screenshots or armories about classes and people that have been stacking the verse amps up until like 60% versatility. Now that means they're getting plus 60% damage, which is a lot of damage and is speeding up the game. But they also take 30% reduced damage, and that's where the rubber hits the road in terms of the gameplay slowing down. Now, at the beginning of this PvP season, with all the corruptions, infinite star stacking, gushing wounds, tentacles, when people didn't quite figure out how to handle those situations, people were getting exploded. Now that the season has matured, and this happens almost every season that I've seen in BFA particularly, things are starting to slow way down. And they slow down to the point where people start using tank trinkets. People start doing things to just massively kind of buff up their defenses. And when that happens, people are not fans. They're not happy about it because that type of play styles is like 30-minute games, 30-minute matches. It's like, it's not that great. But this means it's kind of interesting. People are like saying, oh no, but to be honest, a 12% going down to an 8. To be honest, I don't know if this will have that big of a deal in terms of builds because the alternatives are just not that great. Maybe haste for like shaman stuff. Maybe other classes are taking some haste in some circumstances. But I think versatility, at least for shamans, is going to stay the same. You're still going to want to stack it. It's just going to be less effective, as you can see, 33% less effective. But I don't think it's I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I think it will make things a little bit faster and slower at the same time because the damage is now decreased, the additional damage you're getting from the verse, but now you're going to be taking more damage. It's just kind of weird to me, but anyway, but you got to think about it this way too. Every week, remember, you're going to get up to 3, well, if you're behind 6, but 3 corruption resistance on your cloak every week, meaning eventually let's say right now you only have 5 verse amps and they're getting nerfed. Well, you're going to get 5 more in however many weeks or months it's going to take you to get the corruption resistance to be able to use that many more verse amps. So if you're already maybe at the max point of your cloak, I'm not even there because I'm a little bit behind because of alpha, but I will eventually be able to have enough verse amps to kind of compensate for this loss. Now, of course, let's say the max number of verse amps you can get is 10. Now, that means 120% resistance goes down to 80%, additional verse. Like, that's a big jump at the end, but eventually, I think that's going to be okay. If you think about it, like the meta and the time of this patch, it has been around for a while, this patch, and it's going to go on for a while until Shadowlands, which everyone knows is Q4 of this coming year, which means we have about probably 4 to 5 months, probably 5 months away. That's going to be a lot of corruption resistance. And the only other thing, though, is corruption resistance is going to continue to go up. But gearing, people are kind of capped out on gear. At the higher ratings and stuff, in PvP specifically, people are pretty much geared. The things that they may be going for, maybe it's a mythic raid item, or maybe it's, their 2400 and plus rated gears that's 470 plus, but people are pretty much geared. Like, eye level's not going to go up that much, but corruption resistance is going to go up that much. It's just going to take time. So that's just something else. But in general, people have been asking me a lot, like, does this change the build for enhanced? Does it change for LA? I don't think so. What it may mean, though, is you might want to take something like, for LA, I don't see it changing at all. Maybe a crit damage percentage, but that would be even cheesier. I'm not 100% sure there, but it could be okay. But I don't think anything else really kind of compares in PvP when it comes to verse, increasing the damage, decreasing damage taken. So I still think we're going to go that route. Now, enhanced shamans might be a little bit different. I think enhanced shamans could go a more haste build. This could make it so maybe you do go a few 12% haste, maybe some proc haste to get that going. When those procs happen, you pop everything and you start get a go there, because that does proc pretty often. So I think that could change that. Our shaman, I feel like, again, we're going to be verse only, but with that being said, let me know in the comments what you think, how your class is being impacted. The other big thing that's being discussed here is the fact that Destro Warlocks were not nerfed here. And everybody knows by now, Destro Warlocks are insanely strong right now. They are the defining meta. They are literally in 9 out of 10 games that I play on ladder ever. And like, okay, sure, like last season it was RMX, and now you're seeing all the Destros. Like, come on, Tiqqle, it rotates. Yeah, but the thing about it is it's just kind of, it's equal. Equally, it's just not balanced at all. And I'm not going to say that the game is ever going to be fully balanced. I think the Destro meta is particularly hard, because when you're making changes like this, when you decrease verse on all the classes, you are decreasing the verse of Destro, so maybe they will become more killable by melee, but you are hurting a lot of other classes, like shamans, for example. That is going to be in a rough spot after this, potentially. If people really take advantage of this, I'm going to have probably I'm going to have much less verse now after this change. I haven't done the math quite yet, but it is going to be it's going to hurt me. It's not going to hurt Destro. Destro is now going to stack Mastery, because Mastery gives them a random amount of healing and damage additional. It's going to make them stronger. This nerf makes Destro stronger, unless they were going those verse builds that I have heard about them going against, particularly melee cleaves. But in general, the mage lock Mistweaver is not being touched here with this specific change with verse. Maybe it means that maybe it means that Mistweavers are more viable targets. I just don't know if it'll be that significant for those classes, but Destro now can say F verse now, not efficient. Let's just go all in on Mastery. So I'm a little sad we don't see any changes here. But anyway, let's move on. Azurite Essences. Reaping Flames no longer activates on player-controlled targets such as pet, totems, or guardians. This is kind of a big one. People were what they were doing against like Warlocks or DKs is they would get their pet of the enemy target low. They would use Reaping on it. When you kill something with Reaping, it gives it the next cast in 5 seconds a plus 100% damage effect to the Reaping. I've used this to chain kill people in Battlegrounds. It is a lot of fun. In Arena, kind of OP, because then you kill the pet, and then on your go, which has to be within like 20 seconds, you get to reuse Reaping Flames, and it does like 150k damage just on that. So you use that with a Destro Buff or whatever, you just evaporate somebody. So it's definitely a little rough. This is something that was cheesy early on in the patch. They nerfed it where Reaping Flames was able to be used on tentacles, and then you got that buff, and you would be able to pump people. They removed that. So I think this is about time. We knew this was pretty much coming. The next one is resolved an issue which prevented Conflict and Strife Major rank 2 effect from providing additional defensive benefits from versatility under the effects of certain class stuns. Now, what we assume this means is in the AWC, we've seen it, and it's been pretty much broadcasted everywhere, that not all stuns activated the defensive bonus of Conflict and Strife. Now, Conflict and Strife, what it does is its benefit when it's your major essence is that if you get stunned, the defensive percentage of your versatility, so like let's say you have 60% verse, and then you have 30% damage reduction. When you're in a stun, that 30% damage reduction becomes 60%. It gets doubled. And that is a huge thing, especially like against stun classes. People with a ton of verse basically were becoming immortal in those stuns. So I get it, Blizzard. I mean, everybody, I get it. That's why the verse was probably taken down a little bit. But the problem was Conflict and Strife, that proc of doubling that defensive benefit was not happening on most stuns. Stormbolt from Warrior, Maim from Druid, that's why we saw Jungle do savage damage in the AWC, is because they were using Maim Stun, which Maim Stun was not affected by that. So in other words, instead of getting 60% damage reduction, it would stay at 30%, and they would blast the boys. So that's now being across everything. And this did, in fact, affect Lightning Lasso. Lightning Lasso, it would not activate that defensive bonus. So now it seems like they've changed that. There will be some testing that is done after this. We'll know for sure by everybody in the world who will test that, because it is a very big deal, particularly for rogue players. Rogues were stunning people, and the people were becoming basically immortal. Not exactly, but almost. So that's a big deal, and a good correction Blizzard has done. Now, the last change... All right, listen, Mistweavers have been strong in this patch. Yeah, sure, they weren't strong previously in some other patches, but they are pretty outrageous right now. One of the big things was the cooldown on Life Cocoon. People have been doing two things here. One is, just in general, there's a PvP talent which is being changed. Now reduces the cooldown of Life Cocoon by 25 seconds. Was 45 seconds. In other words, the cooldown of Life Cocoon basically is 20 more seconds now because everyone was taking that. That's huge. That is huge, because that was something that was on a very short cooldown. And the other thing is, people were using the stacking the corruption inevitable truth, which basically increased the cooldown reduction rate, meaning that you were not only getting the cocoon every 40 seconds, now it's becoming every 20 seconds, every 30 seconds. So this is actually kind of compensating for that cooldown stacking buff, as well as the fact that the cooldown was very low, and cocoons are basically immortal bubbles put on people. So when they get put on, you basically cannot go through them unless you're like Sticky Ricky and you blast, just damaging right through it. Usually that's not really an option. So that's actually probably a fair change, and might allow other healers to come up in the ranks, because right now it's just Mistweavers on the ladder. Let's be honest. Mostly. I mean, some H-Pallies are very strong, but not a lot of R Shamans. There are some doing the melee cleaves. There are not a lot of discs doing particular cleaves, but you even see Mistweavers being inserted into comps like Jungle, where they're not usually there. So, so I think this is kind of a fitting change, to be honest. And then it says, as always, we'll let you know if there will be further changes to be made or adjustments of the above. We'll report the final changes on my hotfix update. So yeah, the update's coming this Tuesday. But yeah, this is about it. Now again, let's talk about the impact. I think the impact is people are going to consider other corruptions, but I think they're going to stick to verse ones for those classes that are stacking verse. There are classes like Warrior, for example. Warrior could stack a little bit more haste, maybe. And because the versatility effects aren't going to be as amplified as much. Maybe they don't stack quite as many. I think what we will find is that everyone's going to continue to do the same approach to their builds. You're just going to see a lesser benefit of that, because there's certain on-damaged ones like Infinite Stars, Tendies, Gushing. Maybe Gushing was just nerfed by 35%. Those things are kind of like, everyone knows how to handle those, except for Gushing. Gushing could come back with a vengeance here, but I don't think so because the damage is just so low now. It's probably not worth the corruption. But we'll see. I still have one. I'm not sure if I'm going to continue to use it or not. I've swapped it over to be a verse amp, but now it might not be worth it because the verse amp is so low. It's going to be. It was one of the smaller ones. I think it was a 3%. Oh, no, it was a 6%, so now it's becoming like 4%, so we'll see. But yeah, so I think the biggest people that are winners out of this are Destro Warlocks. Overall, the Destro Warlocks are winners. So Mage Lock has been prevalent across the ladder lately, and I think it's going to continue to be the case. The losers, I think, of this are shamans, potentially warriors, because warriors similarly they were I mean, I'll give you this. There are some people that are overly tanky. Like it was really tanky, and I kind of get it. People say like I've been playing Ali Boomy. I've seen Ali Boomies. People say I'm like, dude, we can't do damage to anything. And of course, if you're a Destro Fire Mage, you can because you got this percent-based GPIs and you got the insanely huge corruption, mastery builds that are just dumbstring people with cast bolts. So I think that's going to be fine. I think RMX is going to really like all of these changes, particularly the Mistweaver, particularly the Verse because of their stuns, the correction to this. Spite trinkets, they're going to be favored here. Melee cleaves are going to not like this change because of warriors. They're also going to kind of like get balanced here because the stun resist, the versatility defense proc. Jungle is going to get hurt by this pretty bad. I mean, Mistweavers are going to get hurt across the board with this PvP down. I just don't see them changing. Their efficiency of their heals is insane. But it is a good news for H-Pally, though. I think H-Pallies, you're going to start to see them a little bit more. So with that being said, guys, that's about it. I wanted to just go through these changes. I think it's pretty important. This is the first time we've seen PvP changes after, well, maybe not the first time. We saw the Spite Trinkets and Ineffable Truths and a few things. But I think that we're going to see, I'm hoping Blizzard listens to people and they make a few changes to Destro. They gotta do something, man. I just don't know what they could possibly do. Make them more killable or decrease. Either you decrease their defenses or you decrease their offenses. Which one do you do? Do you decrease defense, make them more killable by melee cleaves? I don't know. Decrease their offenses, make them not two-shot people? Like, I'm not sure. It's a tough one. Let me know what you guys think, though, about these changes. Put it down below in the comments, and we'll talk about this on stream as well. We'll see how it works out. Tuesday's going to come in hot. People are going to be not know what to do. I'll tell you, with that vendor rotating every 3 days, people don't know what to do, man. Like, do I spend all my echoes? Do I not spend them? So people will be figuring this out very quickly because people are going to, I mean, a lot of people farmed a ton for those verse amps, like a mind-blowing amount. I think it'll still be worth it. We'll have to see what happens. But that being said, guys, we'll see you on the stream. Thanks for watching the video. We'll keep them pumping and stay safe out there. Take care.